You have heard this sound before. But amber was not just a color. It was a name. Amber Hagerman was 9 years old. Her case was never solved, but it changed how America searches for missing children. You have heard this sound before. It interrupts dinner. It wakes people up. It turns millions of strangers into witnesses. But amber was not just a color. It was a name. Amber Hagerman was 9 years old. In 1996, she disappeared from Arlington, Texas. Her case remains unsolved. But her name became one of the most important child safety systems in America. Official sources say Amber was abducted while riding her bicycle. That is what makes the story so hard to process. It did not begin in some hidden place. It began in the open, in a neighborhood, in daylight. For her family and community, time became the enemy. Every minute mattered. Every witness mattered. But the country did not yet have the warning system people know today. In the days after Amber vanished, Arlington searched. Police followed tips. Local media reported updates. Families watched the news and wondered what they would do if it were their child. The public could help only if the public knew what to look for. That was the gap Amber's case exposed. After Amber's death, people in the Dallas-Fort Worth area pushed for something faster, a way to interrupt normal programming when a child was in immediate danger. The idea became Amber, America's Missing Broadcast Emergency Response. It was named in Amber's memory, not because it could save her, but because it might save the next child. Over time, Amber Alerts moved beyond one city. Broadcasters, law enforcement, transportation systems, digital networks, the Department of Justice, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children helped build a system designed around urgency. The logic was simple. When a child is in danger, the public should not find out too late. But the center of this story is still unresolved. Amber Hagerman's case remains unsolved. Her name became a warning that travels across phones, radios, televisions, and highway signs. It became a system built out of grief, urgency, and the belief that strangers can help before it is too late. If you want more true stories about the cases behind the systems we use every day, subscribe. And if you know anything about Amber Hagerman's case, contact the appropriate law enforcement agency.
December 31st, 2013, Phoenix, Arizona. While the rest of the world was counting down to a new year, inside a quiet home near Bethany Home Road, a 13-year-old boy named David Cheryl would never see midnight. His father, Gary Reagan Cheryl, a 51-year-old man, had looked at his own son and seen something monstrous. Not a boy, not his child, a demon. This is the Gary Cheryl case. Gary Reagan Cheryl was 51 years old at the time of the crime. A father, a man going through the slow collapse that unemployment can cause on a person's mental and emotional state. Court documents from his divorce proceedings stated, and I want you to pay attention to this, that the father is unemployed and this has likely impacted his mental state. That line was buried inside paperwork. Nobody acted on it. Gary and his ex-wife shared joint legal custody of their son, David, a 13-year-old boy described by neighbors as sweet and kind. On New Year's Day, it was Gary's turn to have David. Neighbors had noticed. One woman, who didn't want to show her face on camera, said she had seen strange behavior coming from Gary's home months before the murder. She was so concerned that she actually reported him to Child Protective Services. But here's where the system failed. CPS said they had no record of any complaint filed for this specific family. No investigation was ever launched. A few months before New Year's Eve, the courts had reached a joint custody agreement. Gary would have David on New Year's Day. It seemed like a routine arrangement. We don't know exactly what Gary was thinking in the hours leading up to the murder, but we know what he told police afterward. He said he was scared of David. He said his 13-year-old son, his own flesh and blood, was a demon, and that the demon was going to eat him. On New Year's Eve, Gary picked up an axe, and he killed his son. David Cheryl, 13 years old, died in his father's home with stab wounds and lacerations across multiple parts of his body. The next morning, David's mother grew worried. Her ex-husband hadn't returned their son as scheduled. Calls went unanswered. She did what any terrified mother would do. She called the police. Officers arrived at Gary's home. He answered the door and told them David wasn't there. But police pressed further. They asked to come inside. And that's when they found him. Phoenix Police Sergeant Steve Martos described the scene. David had suffered stab wounds and lacerations to several parts of his body. The signs of trauma were impossible to miss. A neighbor who witnessed the moment officers broke the news to David's mother said, and I want you to hear this, she heard a gut-wrenching scream, one that would stay with her forever. Gary Reagan Cheryl was arrested on New Year's Eve and booked on first-degree murder charges. His bond was set at $1 million. He didn't deny what he did. He confessed. He told detectives exactly why he killed David, because he believed his son was a demon who was going to eat him. Neighbors reported that when Gary was arrested, he was screaming hysterically. He was yelling about war. This is not a case of a calculated, cold-blooded killer who planned everything in secret. This is a case of catastrophic mental illness that was never properly treated or monitored. Gary Cheryl opted for a bench trial, meaning a judge, not a jury, would decide his fate. In April 2016, more than 2 years after David's death, a Maricopa County Superior Court judge rendered the verdict: guilty, except insane. Under Arizona law, guilty except insane means the court found that Gary did commit the act, but that he was suffering from a severe mental disease that meant he could not understand the nature of what he was doing, or that it was wrong. He was sentenced to life, placed under the jurisdiction of the State Psychiatric Review Board. He went to a state mental hospital, not a standard prison. Prosecutors noted he would only be transferred to prison if he was ever determined not to be a danger to himself or others. So what do we take from this? Because if we just watch this as a shocking story and move on, then we've missed the point entirely. The Gary Cheryl case is a story about failure at every level. Failure of the mental health system to identify and treat a man who was clearly breaking down. Failure of the child welfare system to follow up on a reported concern. Failure of a custody arrangement that placed a child with a parent in psychological crisis. David Cheryl was sweet. He was kind. His neighbors lit candles outside the house where he died. He deserved to see 2014. He deserved to grow up. Gary Reagan Cheryl is currently confined to a state psychiatric facility where he will remain for the rest of his life, unless psychiatrists one day determine he is no longer a danger. David Sebastian Cheryl never had that chance. He was 13 years old. He trusted his father. He spent his last night on earth in the home of the person who should have protected him above all others. Because David Cheryl's story should never have ended the way it did. Rest in peace, David. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you. It means you're someone who doesn't just scroll past the hard stories. You face them. Was the guilty except insane verdict the right call? Drop your opinion below. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Awareness saves lives.